Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Career Change Hacks live stream. This time round, all things being equal, it will be streamed not just to LinkedIn, but also to Facebook and YouTube. The miracles of modern technology, or not, as the case may be. So we'll see how this goes. Um, so my name's Steve Preston. I'm known as the Career Catalyst. Why? Because I'm a leading career coach, internationally acclaimed author, speaker, and creator of breakthrough career and personal development courses, and a broadcaster for live streams and host guest on various podcasts as well. So this week, in terms of Career Change Hacks Live, very, very interesting what's happened. And as a result of a post I put out with an image of uh, something I'd taken a picture of at a bed and breakfast my wife and I stayed at recently, it's created an awful lot of interest and engagement. Um, so I'm going to put up the heading in a minute, but in the meantime, if you can say hi, if you're here on live on stream, and also maybe where you're from. Over the last few weeks, we've had people from Australia and the USA, albeit we're still small numbers live. From small acorns, but a lot of people have been picking up these recordings. And if it helps you to that, my quest is to help professionals and executives to break free from career misery and do what you love, as in my t-shirt. And if it helps in that respect, then absolutely brilliant. So this is number 11. And the theme this week, we usually have a theme. The theme this week is never get so busy making a living, you forget to make a life. Never get so busy making a living, you forget to make a life. So hi, Stephen. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining me live today. I'm sure there'll be many others. So what are we talking about here? I mean, isn't it a sad indictment on society and the world of work that such a statement has got so much interest? The post on LinkedIn has had more views than hundreds of views, more views than just about anything else I've posted out in months. Now, in terms of the place where I saw it, say a bed and breakfast down on the southeast coast in England, it's my belief that it was put there to remind the proprietor of the bed and breakfast of his previous working life probably in the corporate world, but also to remind him, because in pride of place, right in the breakfast room, but also to remind him in terms of running his own bed and breakfast that he was doing this because he wanted to create a working lifestyle of his choice, or what I call a blended working lifestyle of his choice. And it wasn't all about work. And he shared with us stories about the different places that they would be looking to go on holiday and had been on holiday. And holidays were a key part of his whole working lifestyle, which is great, as it is with my wife and I. Of course, in these challenging times, it's not so easy, but it is a real reminder to us all that we shouldn't get so busy that we're making a living that we forget to make a life. Yet we all do it. And anyone live on this stream and anyone who picks it up later on the recording, I'd love to hear your thoughts about your experiences in the past. It's very noticeable, and we've talked about this before in previous Career Change Hacks live streams, that the pandemic has really awakened new thinking and changed a lot of people's perspective in terms of what is important to them in their career and life and why. And this is all back to those all important values, but very much so also around this whole working lifestyle and the working from home remit, or hybrid working as it is now for a lot of people, has changed so many people's thinking about how they want to work, where they want to work, when they want to work, and so on. Yet we've all been there, haven't we? We've all spent too much time working. We've lost sight of life. I can certainly recall in my senior management days doing exactly that, working excessively long hours, and then coming home and doing work at the weekends when the kids were young, um, and having them watching TV and doing stuff to amuse themselves while I was doing some admin work for, well, this is when I was employed. And then I remember when I started doing this work and running my own business, I felt very guilty about that. All those years maybe where I could have been spending more time, more quality time with the kids. But we've all done it, haven't we? Regardless of whether you have kids or not. And as we're talking family, I'll relate this first scenario, this first story, directly to my dear wife, who's on the call, Lynn Preston. And when she was working at a college, doing some teaching there, and that was one of her first career changes of many throughout her career. She was working supposed part-time hours. However, due to circumstances with illness of colleagues and the way arguably the college was being run at the time, she was literally working full-time and more, but hadn't really realized to the extent that this was happening. She'd come home of an evening, have dinner, make dinner for the kids and so on, and then go back to doing more work, either preparing for lessons or all sorts of other admin stuff that needed to be done for the teaching role. And yet, it was only after a phone call from her mum, where her mum was almost saying, "Oh, I didn't expect you to answer, but can we almost schedule a time, arrange an appointment, if you like, to speak when you've got more time? Because I know how busy you are." All of a sudden, light bulb came on, and she started to feel really bad about her situation. And I started to work out how many hours she really was working both in the college and at home on this supposed part-time role. And from the top of my head, I vaguely recall it was something like 51 hours for a part-time role, which was absolutely crazy. But it was the call with her mum that was the awakening, and the sudden realization that this can't continue. Um, and it often needs something dramatic, doesn't it, in order that people wake up and smell the coffee and suddenly think, well, hang on a minute, I need to do something about this. I mean, going back to my situation, I remember once I used to have a long drive to my office where I was based, although I was out in the field the majority of the time. And I remember heading back down the M11 in Essex, back onto the M25, heading back to my home in West London. And then I suddenly realized I'd missed the turn off for the M25 and I'm heading down towards East London. Now, to this day, I don't know what happened, whether I fell asleep, whether it was just a momentary lapse of concentration. I have no idea, but it certainly was pretty scary at the time. And these are the sort of things, aren't they, that suddenly get us to wake up and think, you know what, there's more to life than work, you know, and it's so important. Even though I did what I love at the time, uh, I was clearly um, extremely tired and arguably burnt out. And I can give you a whole host of examples of people who've been in that situation. And Stephen Rennick, I'm sure doing the work you do, you can also cite some examples as well. And great if you can put some comments up. Um, so, how do we establish some of this if we don't actually realize it's going on? And I know there should be some career coaches or general coaches on this call, either live or hopefully join it later on if you haven't joined it live. You pick up the recording. But one of the great tools that we have open to us is something that's called the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life. And it's a general tool that's available. You can probably pick it up online. I've developed it for career coaching many years ago. And one of the greatest all-time memories in working with clients with the Wheel of Life and the massive impact it had and the dawning of realization that something was desperately wrong was with an executive client a number of years ago. Now, this was a very talented lady working at the top of an organization in the public sector. And I was asked to give her some coaching to help get her back on track because she'd been a high flyer and they felt that something had changed and her performance was dipping and they were concerned about her general well-being, which was great, you know, well before the days when well-being was a high topic on any employer's agenda. So I went through my usual 6-step career navigation cycle process with her, and step one is letting go and looking forward, and there was various stuff that came out of that for sure. But it was more step two, the reevaluation, that was incredibly powerful. And this is basically where you press the pause button, stop, and rethink, reevaluate, and really start to do some soul searching around what's important to you in your career and life and why, and various aspects that maybe have been holding you back and you now want to change. And I brought the Wheel of Life into play in terms of reevaluation. And the Wheel of Life, the way I run it, has 8 different segments. Career is obviously one of them, but finance, health, life, fun, various different categories. And there, you'll see different versions of the Wheel and Life, Wheel of Life, if you check it out online. But I've developed one specifically for the work I do around career coaching, as I mentioned. And so I was working through this with my client, and she said, Steve, because it scored, I made a point, scored 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being really high, and then drawing it out on an actual physical image so you could see it visually as well as just scoring it in writing. And she suddenly completely threw me because she said, Steve, is it okay if I give something 0? And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, there's certain things on here which one in particular which is really significant. This is really interesting. And I really want to score it 0. I said, well, it's academic, really, whether it's 1 or 0, but just making that point is very worrying. And what are we talking about? And she made the point that this was around the category of fun. Oh my goodness. She wanted to score fun 0. So, needless to say, I delved and coached her through that and challenged her, thinking, well, how come fun was such a big issue in her life? And you can probably guess the answer. Basically, she said, I seem to be spending all my time working, and I don't seem to have any time to do anything else. How often have we heard that story? How often maybe does it apply to ourselves as well? But to actually admit that and realize in such a dramatic way that one aspect, just one aspect, that was only one of 8, is causing such a damaging effect on her life. How worrying is that? No wonder it was affecting her performance at work and her general outlook on life. So here's the thing. How did we overcome that issue of not having fun in her life? Well, it was actually remarkably simple. So I started to delve with her around, well, what stuff did she do outside of work, if anything, and what stuff maybe would she like to do? And it transpired that she lived in a village. There was a pub down the end of the road. They'd lived there a couple of years, her and her husband, from memory. And what I recall of this, she said, well, I don't believe we've actually been to the pub in all the time we've been here, but it's not so much about going to the pub. But I know that on Sunday nights, they run a quiz night. And I've always thought, well, that might be interesting just to see what that's all about. So, on her action plan from the Wheel of Life, because there's a couple of things that people have to commit to immediately having done the activity, she committed to checking out the pub and the Sunday night quiz night. But what happened is truly remarkable. Truly remarkable, but it also shows how easy it can be to make a significant change as a result of mindset. As we keep talking about on these sessions, mindset is probably 80% of success, but also self-discipline and changing your working lifestyle. So what actually happened was, yes, her and her husband did go to the quiz night on the Sunday night, and they enjoyed it so much. They got so much fun out of the evening, met loads of new people, but enjoyed the whole process, that they actually made it a key part of their working lifestyle. What do I mean by that? Well, basically, this is what I call with the blended working lifestyle. It's not just about work; it's other stuff that goes on in your life. So they made a point that Sunday evening was their time to have fun, go to the pub for the quiz night, and they worked everything else around that Sunday night. And then what became really evident and was a fantastic outcome from this was not just the fact she started to enjoy life again and was doing stuff outside of work, so had a new interest, and it was obviously good for their relationship as well. But her boss commented on the change they'd seen in her as a person. She said, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, do more of it, because it's definitely making a difference. And I remember her sharing this with me in a coaching session. I thought, wow, isn't this incredible? One simple change to her life, as simple as going to the pub on a Sunday night for the quiz night and actually making that a discipline, a weekly discipline, and bringing it into play in her working lifestyle, how that transformed her whole outlook on life and her outlook on work. And so she started to enjoy her job even more so because she'd lost interest in that, maybe. And very quickly, she got a promotion. So great story, and it really does show how we lose sight of the fact that we're totally immersed in our work and at all costs, and how damaging is that? As I say, we know through the pandemic how many people have challenged their thinking around what they do with their work and why they do it. So this is really important stuff. So it's not surprising, maybe, that post about this on LinkedIn got so much engagement. I love this from Stephen. I'm going to showcase this. Sometimes we live like we are hypnotized, going through life on autopilot. I've just written a book about it called Sleep Work, Live the Dream, a 9-step program of self-destruction. Brilliant. And I'm sure many people will be interested in that book. And I know I'll be getting it at some point myself. So thanks for that, Stephen. Interesting way of putting it. If anybody else is live on this, Lynn is saying here, let's just show this. A role that should have been 15 hours became 51 hours plus weekends. Well, I hadn't even realized it was only due to be 15 hours. I mean, that is unbelievable, isn't it? And it just shows how we can let these things take over our lives. And it just happens and it spirals out of control, doesn't it? So if there's anybody else online who's been in that situation, please say hi and share your experience. Now, I'm going to share another story. And those who know me, I'm full of stories and anecdotes, but these are all true, real life stories. And this is one that is featured in my Portfolio Careers book, How to Work for Passion, Pleasure and Profit. One of my 3 internationally acclaimed books, which I'm really proud of. And this is a lady called Tara, who's a very talented lady. And I had the pleasure to coach her through various stages of her transition. She was earning big money, big bucks, as a creative director for some incredible laser light show spectaculars and similar type of events for corporate launches, hotel launches, and Dubai and all around the globe. Some big, really big, super high profile events with loads of fireworks and all sorts of clever laser light enhancements and so on, way beyond my comprehension. However, Tara was starting to get fed up with what she called the rock and roll lifestyle, constantly living out of a suitcase, traveling around the globe. I mean, it sounds marvelous for a lot of people, I'm sure, but I think this was when she was, starting to get into a serious relationship and was starting to think, well, maybe it's time to settle down and get married and so on. And she'd spent so many years doing this, and was absolutely brilliant at it and getting very well paid for it. However, here's the thing: her real dream, and the sign behind me, "Follow your dreams," was to become an established artist. Become an established artist or an exhibited artist. And she never believed that was possible. And as I say constantly on these Career Change Hacks live sessions, with the right mindset, belief, and positive actions following proven strategies, that's really important, then almost anything is possible. And Tara became living proof of that, because when I met her at a local craft fair, and she was selling print cards of some of her illustrations. And these had some profound quotes on different things such as the leap of life and being bold and so on. And I always remember her saying to me, "Do you get this stuff?" I came to her stand. She said, "Do you get this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I certainly do." And she said, "Wow, that's great," because most people just look blankly at them. And when I told her I was a career coach and I spend much of my time helping people to transform their lives and take the leap of faith and do what they love and so on, then an instant friendship was formed. And I was at the stage where I was starting to consider writing my first book. And cut a long story short, we met up, followed up that initial meet, and I asked her if she would illustrate the book for me. And she came to a book publishing workshop that I ran, and I really decided after that, yes, this was something I was going to do, and I'd love her to illustrate it. And that's how things started. And she'd never done book illustrations, so that was taken out of her comfort zone. And then one thing led to another, and I coached her to really start to let go of some of her limiting beliefs around earning enough, because that's what it is with so many people, isn't it? And to the point where she took a very brave decision that she was going to go all out on her art and rein back on the work that had been such a created such a good income for her for many years. And in her words, she didn't just let go or just didn't give up an income stream. She gave up an income river because it was all flowing in big time. However, the great news is a number of years later, she did achieve her dream and become an established artist, and her work is now exhibited in different locations around the globe. And from small acorns of selling her those print cards I mentioned for a few pounds a time, she now sells her art for a few £1,000s a time. So she's really made it work. But obviously that takes hard work and determination and so on. But she was so stuck in the doing mode and these constant tours in different parts of the world for these laser light spectaculars and other similar events. She couldn't see the wood for the trees and how she could get out of that spiral in order to really focus on doing what she loved. And say she's now achieved that, which is absolutely fantastic. So when people say, "Well, I never know, I don't want to change career because I don't know whether I'm going to earn enough," well, uh, who does know if they're going to earn enough? But you have to have that belief and take the right positive actions, as I mentioned, the right mindset to make it all happen, and then it will happen. But obviously, you can't say when. Um, so, in terms of people being held back by this constant being so busy making a living that people forget a life, it is so damaging. And I say, I'm sure we all know people. If anyone wants to give any other examples, whether it's yourself or anybody you know, please put this in the comments box. But I'm now also going to share something which is really well, it helped change my thinking, and also something I've shared with many clients over the years. And like Stephen's talking about his book, this is back to books, and this is a book, and there's a whole series of them. A guy called Robin Sharma, and he's a amazing personal development guru, and he's written a whole series of books under the guise of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Very intriguing title, isn't it? And essentially, the essence of it, and I don't want to kill it off for anyone who might be interested in getting the book, but suffice to say that the start of the book is all about a lawyer who basically is all consumed in his work. And I'll just give a very, very brief outline. He then has a heart attack, and suddenly he's on death's door, and starts to realize that maybe there is more to life than work, as we've discussed. Anyway, the upshot is that basically he disappears off into the ether somewhere, and one day he returns and he knocks on the door of his previous business partner, and it transpires that he's been away into the Himalayas, found himself, and through what he's learnt in personal development, he now wants to share with his previous business partner to help him become a better person and make him realize that there's more to life than work. It's a fascinating book, and there's a whole series of the books which are all equally good, and I couldn't recommend it more. I don't get any financial benefit from it, but I think it's a great book, and it's wonderful how he characterized a story and uses characters to basically create some brilliant personal development learning, which is something that everybody can learn and grow from. So, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma, and that whole series. So there's all sorts of ways that people can have an awakening. Let's see some of these other comments we've got here. Thank you, Stephen, again, and Lynn. Yeah, Lynn saying Tara's leap of faith card was so powerful. Also, her message is just to believe in yourself and trust the outcome. They really touched a chord with me. Well, that was just the start of a long journey, which, say, now has resulted in her become an internationally exhibited artist in demand. Stephen said just a big feature in magazine. Let's just feature that for you. hintonmagazine.com. Not sure I'm aware of that, but thank you for that. So why is it that we get sucked in to this awful situation where we're so busy making a living that we forget about life? Now, it's not just about money. I know for some people it is. They back to the comment I had with the information about this live stream. People chasing the golden goose, and it's all money, 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 career ladder, if that even exists anymore. I say it's more like a career roller coaster, upswings, downswings, twists and turns, and so on. But as I say, the pandemic has made people realize there's so much more to life than materialistic things. There's so many things we can achieve in our life. So, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to have this awakening? I've given examples of where people have had uh, dawn of realization as a result of something dramatic happening, but yet so many people can't see the wood for the trees. So, what do we need to do in order to come to that realization that something is wrong? What are people's thoughts around that? How can we break out of this spiral? And it is a downward spiral because the more you work, the more you earn, the more you earn, the more you work, and so on. And surely it should be the opposite. Once you start to earn enough, then you can look at working less, and then you can start to be focusing on your lifestyle. So maybe this is all about getting people to, rather than just focus on their career, maybe it is all about lifestyle focus. Stephen says sometimes it takes a giant wake up call, unfortunately. Absolutely right, Stephen. And yeah, it's true. Sudden boom. I'll give another example of that. Another client, good career in IT, IT manager, well respected, worked their way up to a management level, but super busy, hadn't realized the extent of what their job was, how it was impacting on their life and their family and everything else. And they had kids until one day they collapsed in the supermarket, smacked their head on the floor, and fractured their skull. Now, taking Stephen's point there, that is a big wake up call, isn't it? And that really made them rethink their whole work and lifestyle, and they made a complete about turn. They moved away from the employed world of work and the constant 24/7 demands of working for a corporate employer to becoming self-employed. And in fact, they have a portfolio career. They're actually doing consultancy around some of the specialist IT areas they were involved with, but on their terms. That's really important, taking back control of their career and life, which I talk about so often with my clients and in my courses and my books, especially the portfolio career book, and doing things on their terms. And then, in addition to that, also focusing on other aspects of doing what they love in a creative way, with various woodworking skills that they had from the past and now honed and developed. So they're actually making stuff and selling it, and then even made their own workshop. So it's been a massive learning process for them, and also development process. And they're now in a completely different place. But who wants to get to that point with where things are so bad and people you're so burnt out that you have a severe accident like that? I mean, it could have been much worse, couldn't it? Then he's saying here that New Year's good time to take stock, really listen to your narrative and that of your family. I think it's so important to include family in anything that's focused in this way. It's not just about you and what you do, it's the bigger picture, isn't it? Open your mind to a refresh start or a new path that will give you a better life and begin to live your best life. Thank you. Well, that's just what I've described there. Yeah, another good point here. Not waiting until you're desperate and in a panic that your life or relationships are crumbling around you. Of course, that's the other impact, isn't it? That relationships are affected by these situations. And whether directly or indirectly, thank you, Lynn's using my phrase here. Yes, I say your health is your wealth. I use this saying all the time with my clients and people, and even our family. It's so important, isn't it? Because without your health, you've got nothing. Absolutely true. So we all need to wise up, don't we? And maybe we need to have people around us. I mean, I always talk about the importance of having a positive support network around you, not just to make a career change or transition or following redundancy, whatever. I think it's important to have your constant, ongoing positive support network around you. And you can talk to people about these things and ask them, am I working too much? Am I spending way too much time not having a life and completely lost focus of the bigger picture? And bless him, my late best friend, Don. I always remember one year he bought me a picture, a cartoon type picture of a golfer. And I can't remember if it was a birthday or Christmas or whatever. And he was using that as a metaphor to remind me that I used to play a lot of golf and I used to enjoy that. And it became a social thing because I certainly wasn't a good golfer. And I was starting to lose sight of some of those things that I enjoyed, that were part of my blended working lifestyle, because I was constantly focused on building my business. This is when I started my own business and had lost sight of the whole lifestyle thing. And I have that now in my office as a constant reminder to myself. If I lose sight of it, I think, thank you, Don. That was a wonderful metaphor. And, I miss him dearly, but that's a wonderful reminder for me of both him and also of the fact that I need to keep focused on this blended working lifestyle and the things that are important to me outside of work. And I love tennis. I play a lot of tennis and I watch a lot of tennis, and I build those into my working week. It might be I decide that I want to play tennis during the working day, in which case I take time out to do that. I might be watching some specific tennis while it's live, because afterwards you know the result and it's never the same, is it? So these are all the things that are important to me, and also taking time out with my wife to go for walks and enjoying nature and things like that. This is a nice one. Love that, Stephen. We can't take things with us. The Egyptians tried. Very good. Like that. I greatly love tennis too, and I know your first book was around thoughts around that too. Yeah, so much of this is a mindset, isn't it? But it's also discipline. We do need to discipline ourselves to be much more aware of our well-being. Let's say this is one of the big benefits of the pandemic. This new well-being focus, and not just from employers, which, to be honest, was rarely there before, but also as individuals, taking responsibility not just for our careers but for our personal well-being. I don't know if anybody's got any specific thoughts around that. I'd love to hear them if you do. What else we got here? Try to focus on what makes you smile every day. Thank you. Hope it's each other. Very true. I always say to focus on things that make you feel good about yourself. But that's the same thing, that makes you smile, because obviously smiling and laughing releases endorphins, which is obviously very good for your health. So maybe this is the essence of it. We all need, back to that example that I shared with the client who had no fun in their life. I'm not sure what happened there, but it seemed that I disappeared off the face of the earth. So we should still be live, but I think maybe that's a call now that it's time to call it a day. So thank you to those who've engaged. If you missed the live stream, then please do pick up the recording. If you want to engage with me, either connect on LinkedIn, or if you're already connected, you can find me on my Career Catalyst website or my courses, .stevepreston, thecareercatalyst.com website for breakthrough online courses. Many thanks if you have joined me today, or if you're going to join the recording, and I'll say goodbye. And just remind you that this is my quest to help professionals and executives to break free from career misery and do what you love. Bye for now.